Hello everybody, it is Sunday the 20th of October. I want to talk about levels of consciousness, and I want to talk about NPCs, non-player characters, which is a new term that has come up, a thought that has been sown, is being sown into the consciousness of man. A little seed that might grow into something, and I want to show you here exactly what that is supposed to grow into, what kind of tree that is supposed to grow. Because as David Icke says, if you can see the outcome, if you know the outcome, you can see the way. And I know the outcome, or the intended outcome, and anybody who has any awareness at all knows the intended outcome. Yeah, and that is that humanity will be ruled over with a rod of iron, that they really have control over us, because the few control over the many, because that is what everything is supposed to serve. And I just want to show you how that thought will get you there. Yeah, or if you're thinking we are in a spiritual awakening, we are, that is the way, or David Icke is the one you should follow to that spiritual future, then I show you where it's going to lead you. Spiritual future, yes, but Kabbalah style. Nothing is going to change. That is exactly what that is supposed to do. But, as I said, the idea, of course, the intention is to rule over us, to have control over us. And there are different ways of achieving that. Obviously, dividing us from each other, divide and conquer, is a big thing. Yeah, if humanity were to unite, we would be more and we would be stronger than them. You know, they wouldn't stand a chance. So we need to be divided amongst each other, which is done by politics, religion, creed, race, color, age, whatever. But then there's the other thing of the few actually having control, and that can be done in two ways. It has been done in two ways. One is the way of the tyrant, which is straightforward. Yeah? Brutally suppress them. Yeah? Scare the living daylights out of them, traumatize them, and keep them quiet. Straightforward. Has been done many times in this world. But there's another way, and I think people have not become really aware of that way and what it does. And that is the way of the truth that will lead into slavery. Yeah? And absolutely that was the way of Jesus. I am the way, I am the truth. I am the way of the truth. And that is, you bring a truth. Yeah? You tell people the truth. Well, Jesus brought more than a truth. He actually brought a knowledge, you know, the knowledge of healing, the knowledge of whatever it is he was doing there, which was a bit far out. It was a spiritual knowledge that he brought, and he showed how it could be a reality. Now that was far out, and maybe people doubted him at the start until they saw that it was the truth. See, that is the fishers of man. The truth is a bait. That's what he did. So, and you show it, and the sheep see that it is the truth until they start to trust. That's the next thing. Trust. Yeah? And then they start following. And at some point they will switch their brains off. They will go back into sleep, into a coma, just following the good shepherd. Yeah? No longer thinking for themselves. Takes too much energy anyway. So, trust, do as you're told, follow the shepherd. Because he's shown you truth. And you know that he was truthful. And then when the sheep are in a coma, following blindly, the shepherd goes off on one. Jesus did, most certainly. Yeah? So we were at healing, we were at compassion, at giving to one another, and all of a sudden he goes on a rant about a kingdom somewhere far out there. Yeah? About the God that needs to be served, about the denial of self and the sacrifice. Yeah? But that, by that time, the sheep are in a coma. Yeah? They're no longer registering what's going on, and they follow. That is how it's done. Yeah? Use the truth as a bait until they have swallowed hook, line, and sinker. And then you reel them in. Fishers of man. Fishing with the truth as bait. Right, so that's the other way. And it will lead into being ruled over, because that is what's happening in the end in the book of the Revelation. That was the intended outcome. Yeah, something will come to rule over us. That was the intended outcome. And that was the way. Right. And that is exactly what is happening here with David Icke. Yeah, and he said it himself. Yeah, that at the beginning that people were laughing at him, then they saw that he was showing the truth, and he was. For 20 years, showing the truth. It is documented, it can be checked. Yeah, that there's evidence somewhere that you can look up to verify that he was telling the truth. Yeah, and yeah, his predictions on that path were quite good. They were good. So he said himself, people were laughing first, then they saw he was telling the truth. They started following him, and he actually said himself, I now have got followers that will even follow me when I go far out. There we go. The shepherd is taking off into infinity and beyond. The sheep are following. Because by now they've gone into a coma. Yeah, they follow the leader. They've started trusting, and they're now following the leader. That is the way. So, as I said, this thing about NPCs, non-player characters, yeah? And really, not just David Icke, but others that are hanging in with him, starting to talk like, we are the awakened ones. Yeah? We have seen that this matrix is nothing. We know the truth. We are elevated. We are elevated above the rest. And now we have NPCs, non-player characters. They are, what are they? Are they not even human? Is that what that is supposed to imply? They're not real, they're not really human. They are below human consciousness. They are below, beneath, unter. Untermenschen? Maybe? There's another way of thinking in this world where, there's a class of human that is golem. Again, not quite human. There are those that are elevated above them, and those, they are nothing. I've heard just recently another term being used, human animal, not quite human, not one of us, not part of our species. I mean, okay, there are those that say, that have used those terms to rule over and to do things you shouldn't be doing, absolutely shouldn't be doing. Justify murder, I think that is the word. I mean, I'm not saying David Icke is doing that, he's not. Yeah, he's not saying that. But I've heard those that are buying into this thing, just saying, oh, we are the elevated ones, we are going to get out of here, we know this, we will have a knowledge of the Creator, which is totally back to front. And I cannot be bothered with those beneath me. Detaching from those beneath me. And as I said, if you start using terms like NPC, you are creating a lower class, basically. And you're creating those that are obviously in greater awareness, that are above. You're creating the division. You're creating a division in the mind of the people. Now, what is human? Apparently people are struggling with that at the moment. What is human? Define human. Well, this is where being informed comes in really handy. Yeah? Because you can see it. You can see what human is. If you just for 5 minutes trust your own lying eyes, which you should. This is a level of knowledge. Yeah? You can see what is human. In fact, you can see the kingdoms of this world. You can see the division between human, animal, vegetative, and mineral. Although people seem to be struggling even with that. Referring to themselves or referring to hive minds and evolution the way of a butterfly. They seem to be confused which kingdom they're actually a part of. Yeah? In this world, it is shown to you quite clearly. The distinction between the kingdoms, between the levels of consciousness are very clear. Yeah, that is what this world shows you. Right, now if you look at the kingdoms themselves, start with the animal kingdom for starters. Yeah, it is not just one thing, it's a bandwidth of consciousness. Those that are within the bandwidth are animal. But there is a wide range of very primitive forms of animal life to quite advanced, like the primates, quite advanced levels of animal, but they all are within the same bandwidth, yeah, of consciousness. But there are distinctions within the bandwidth itself, but the primates have not quite made the jump to the next bandwidth, which would be human. You see differences in even the plant life kingdom. Here you have fruit-bearing trees, you've got vines that will wrap themselves around another plant and basically suck the life out of them. You've got predatory plants that kill animals. So even in the plant, there's quite a variety of different forms of plant life, but they're all within the same bandwidth. Mineral, that's where it stops usually for me, the understanding, because I have not looked at the mineral in a big way. And if you do not look at something, you cannot, the distinct differences, you cannot see them. So to me at the moment, one rock looks very much like another. But if I were to take the time, which I won't, because there's not enough hours in the day anyway, But if I were to take the time to look at that in detail, the differences between the different minerals, again, would become clear over time. Yeah? Right, so there you have it. Different bandwidths, there's different levels within the bandwidth, and it is the same with human. Yeah? We are all within the same bandwidth of humans, but there are different levels within that bandwidth itself. Those that are more conscious and those that are less conscious. But they're all human. Okay? They're all human. You can see it. It's right in front of your eyes. It is very easy to distinguish a human from anything else in this world. Right. And as I said, they think themselves on a high level of consciousness, on a high level of understanding. Something David Icke said in the last video I watched, it's time we got out of this completely nonsensical matrix. No, it's not the matrix that is nonsensical. It is you who does not understand the sense in this. Yeah? It is your ignorance. You're looking at this and you think, and you're looking at chaos, and you do not see the order or the intention or what's actually going on here, or only very little of it. In fact, you've been staring at, David Icke has been staring at Blinken Rothschilds and the cabal for 20 years, and that's all he can see, which is a very small part of this world, probably the smallest part even of humanity, and the worst part of it. And he has not looked at the rest. So it makes no sense to him. But it's not the world that is nonsensical. It's David Icke that has not got the knowledge of it because he has not looked at it. But they think themselves elevated above. In fact, they are that on that higher level of consciousness that they know that their neighbor is an NPC and they should not bother with him. In fact, the highest level of consciousness would be love your neighbor as yourself. We've kind of gotten away from that. And another thing that it says is knowledge. Knowledge has been given to serve, and those that have been given the most should be the greatest servants to all. Yeah? So that means if you really are on a high level of consciousness, of understanding, you are grown up, so to speak, a grown up consciousness within the bandwidth of human, then you should look after the children. There are those that are still children, but they are your brothers and your sisters. And you should be connected to them through caring, through compassion, through love. And you should protect them and serve them, so that all shall be saved. That was the idea. That is a high level of consciousness. Not I'm all the way up here, I'm getting out, my neighbor is an NPC and I can't be asked for them. But, and here goes, all this should serve something. That idea. The idea of the hierarchy. The idea of elevation. Creating division. That's what it does. It creates division in the mind of the people. And as I said, you are going to a spiritual future for humanity. You're going on that path. You're going to a spiritual future cabal style. In fact, nothing will change. They are preparing the way to the new kingdom, which will be exactly like the old kingdom, only it will have the appearance of something different. Yeah? So we are not talking in this world, and we're not talking politics. No, we're above all of that. We're not talking physical world. So we're not talking about Untermenschen or something like that. Anyway, you couldn't use that word anyway, because the sheep will not actually get that comatose that they won't be triggered by that. Because that word is actually linked to a trauma that we have experienced, and where we were rudely woken up to a knowledge of good and bad. So we can't use that word. But you can use the word NPC. And you can say, we're not talking about this world. No, we are talking spiritual. We are talking consciousness. It is something completely different. And it's not. And it won't be. It won't be. You've created the division. You've prepared the way for the spiritual kingdom of the Cabal, which will be the same as any other kingdom before that, only using different terms, but in essence the same. That's where this is leading. Yeah, and those that are the true servants of that kingdom that will take the place to rule over, they will come. Yeah, once we've started thinking in those terms, those that will be also spiritual to rule over the NPCs, those will come. That's just preparing the way to that. Spiritual fascism, or fascism dressed up as spirituality, whichever way you want to look at that. But this is preparing the way. Now, I had a thought a long time ago, and right now this NPC thing is really putting the tin hat on it. And that is all the way back in the beginning, when David Icke apparently had that experience where, as he puts it, he had his head blown off, and then appeared on the Wogan show here on the BBC, not much shortly after that, and actually blurred out, "I am Jesus," which of course got him no end of ridicule at the time. I'm thinking here, well, he realizes how close to the truth that actually is. I am Jesus. He is leading the way that Jesus did. He is doing as he did. Fishers of man, preparing the way to a kingdom, and the bait is truth. Bait them with the truth, make them trust you, make them follow you when you go far out, because by then they are in a coma. Bring the sword of division, because division has to be there for the Cabal kingdom to function. Create the hierarchy, create the lower class, the NPCs, create the higher consciousness that will rule over it once the real people move in. I wonder if he realizes how close to the truth he was when he said, "I am Jesus." That's the way of the truth that will lead into captivity. As I said, this is another step, and that thought of NPCs is one of the most dangerous thoughts that is about at the moment. You can see where it will lead to. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.